joining us tonight. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Excellent. My name is Nick Raper. I lead Nuapay here in the UK. And Nuapay, we're a registered PISP, but we're also a payments company more broadly. And so we provide the full set of payment capabilities. We do direct debits, we issue bank accounts to customers, and we also do outgoing payments like credit transfers. And so where we're a little bit unique to some of the other providers in the market is that we combine some of those propositions to enable people to do not just one-off open banking payments, but looking at how they do recurring payments and refunds to customers and all the other types of payments that you typically expect from a payment method.
Well, tonight our audience can actually make a special payment. So you brought a friend with you tonight. Can you tell us a little bit more about this initiative?
Yeah, we can. So we brought along Pudsey Bear tonight, and many people are probably familiar with Pudsey from the BBC's Children in Need campaign. And one of the things that we've been working on quite a lot is, how can we make open banking ubiquitous and try and address some of the use cases in society that have suffered a little bit from the move to a cashless world. And so, when you think about it, one of those is the charities sector. So around 70% of charities have actually seen a decline in their donations due to the fact that people have less cash on them and you have less cash to throw in the till. But only 1 in 4 charities has actually implemented contactless or card technology in order to try and address this. So where we believe there's a great opportunity for open banking is to actually introduce cashless and cardless payment mechanisms in a fairly low touch and low cost way. So what we've done tonight is we've brought along Pudsey, and people can make an open banking transaction to the BBC's Children in Need campaign just by using the NFC chip or the QR codes on their phone and making the transaction on the phone. And this is something that we hope we can roll out more broadly to help address some of these unique use cases that are suffering from the lower cash society.
Open banking is designed to be that force for good. And how has it been helping drive this financial inclusion?
Well, as I said, I think we are very keen on trying to make open banking ubiquitous. And that doesn't mean just using open banking as a payment method in online use cases, but how can you use it more broadly? Charities is definitely one sector where we're trying to do that. But we think there are other sectors as well, and particularly if you look at the SME or the small retailers. So I was talking to a retailer last week, and they just run a small shop. They do, a handful of transactions on a weekly basis, but most of them are fairly high value transactions. And in order to accept them, they have to have card readers, and they pay fairly high transaction costs, it hits their business and their bottom line. What we can do with open banking is bring them what is a fairly low cost solution and roll that out in a fairly low touch, low cost way to enable them to accept transactions and enable people to pay without cards and without cash, just using their mobile phone device. And we think there's going to be a lot of transactions in the future which we can migrate to people's mobile phone devices.
Has much been achieved in open banking and financial inclusion?
Yeah. Well, look, I think at the moment we are very focused on building out our open banking payment method in the UK. Everyone here is probably familiar with the fact that open banking was launched in January 2018 by the banks, but we have taken a long time to get to where we are. And I think it's the APIs that have been produced by the banks and us being able to connect with them reliably has taken us a lot longer than I think we all hoped. We're now at a stage, though, that we're making payments on a daily basis across our open banking payment network with a handful of merchants and retailers. And we're quite proud of that fact. And we think, going forward, we're at a bit of an inflection point where we've got to a point where the customer experience, in an app-to-app mobile world is pretty good. And we think, moving forward, it's really about driving customer adoption. And we hope that, in 2020, we've got to the point where we've got a good customer experience and we can now drive through that adoption curve and help it really pick up and become a sort of part of everyone's everyday life in terms of using open banking. The next challenge going forward is to really drive consumer adoption. So it's everyone here in this room tonight in the open banking community knows what it is. They know that it's secure, they know that it's safe to use, and they're comfortable using it. But how do we get that out into the broader community, and how do we get people that are walking past a charity terminal to make a donation via open banking, or when they're online to click on that open banking payment button. And I think there's a lot that we need to do in terms of consumer adoption going forward.
So what do you think a community like Open Banking Excellence can do to help drive financial inclusion and this adoption?
Well, I think so. Right up until now, I think the community's been very good at bringing everyone together to discuss the propositions, the products, the technical challenges, and how we move that forward. I think going forward, we probably as a community need to be a bit more outward looking. And so how do we work with, how do we drive adoption amongst consumers? And I think that's going to really take some partners in order to do that. The example I like to think of is if you think about back to contactless card adoption. Well, that really took off when the TfL implemented and everyone moved to using their Oyster card to using contactless cards to get on the tube and the buses and everything. And so I think as a community, we need to think about who are some of the partners that we can work with in order to drive adoption across the broader economy. And it'd be really interesting to come together as a community through Open Banking Excellence and other forums to say, how do we bring some of those partners to the table and how do we use them and work with them to help drive adoption together? Because I don't think any one company is going to be able to do it by themselves. And if we work together, we'll be much more effective.
Stronger together. Thank you so much, Nick. Really nice to meet you.
Thanks, Jen.